Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Mortgage Musketeer, where today we're going to be talking about money. Alright, so nobody wants to talk about money. And when I talk about money, I'm talking about the money that's in the bank. This is something that I struggle with every single day. People will sidestep and avoid the question, and I understand why. It's a very personal question when you're asking somebody about how much money do they actually have saved up. So people will try and say, I have enough, or I'll get it, or they'll try and tell you how much they want to spend. That is not what a loan officer is actually looking for. A loan officer needs to know how much money is in your bank account. Period. It doesn't mean that we're going to use it all. It doesn't mean that you have to worry about some type of privacy. There's no privacy in lending when it comes to your loan officer. We are going to be deep into your life. That's the way it works. And you know what? We deal with this every single day, and we are not thinking about you specifically. We are thinking about lending qualifications. So for most people, money is a very personal and private matter. It's very emotional, and I absolutely understand it. But you have to go into buying a home, tossing that aside, because I promise you, a loan officer doesn't care other than the fact of how do you qualify, all right? And that takes a form of many things. First of all, do you have enough? Do you have enough money, right? That's first and foremost. Have you saved enough for a down payment? The second thing is, if you haven't saved enough for a down payment, how much do you need? Or do you have plenty of money? And then how much do you want to use? So the more money you have and the more money you can show, the better. It does not mean that we need to use it. Anything above and beyond what we're going to use is called reserves. Reserves strengthen the file. So if you have $50,000 in the bank, don't tell a loan officer that, I've got like 20. And then we get a bank statement that shows a lot more. Showing or telling how much you have is better than hiding. And the opposite is true, right? So don't say that you're going to get enough money, right? There's things that people say that trigger my ear. And that's because I do a lot, and I mean a ton, of loans in Eastern Kentucky. And in Eastern Kentucky, culturally, they don't believe in banks. So they take the money out of the bank, and they used to bury it, honestly, is very, very true. But now a lot of times it's in the safe or, someplace in the home, but it is not in the bank. So the problem with that is that you can't deposit cash into your bank account when it comes time to buy a home. And that's what a lot of people do, is they're worried about spending the money that they have in the bank, so they take it out, they withdraw it from the bank, and they keep it in a safe or somewhere else. And you can't use that money. That is cash. Cash is the devil in lending. So the reason for that is because of the Patriot Act. When you finish a loan, a large amount of money is wired, right? And that money being wired goes through the Fed. And because it gets a Fed reference number, it is now subject to the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act guards against money laundering, terrorism, and drug dealing. So one of the things that I joke about is, hey, are you a drug dealer? And if they, usually they laugh, and I say, of course you're not, right? But that's how you are actually looking with federal guidelines when you drop a whole lot of cash into the bank. Okay, so you have to understand that these are lending guidelines that we have to follow. So if you are thinking about buying a home, talk to your loan officer before you do anything. If you already have money outside the bank, okay, talk to your loan officer, because we can give you very specific guidance on what we need to do to get that money back into the bank so that you still qualify. If you think you can just take the money and drop it into the bank, you are wrong, right? Or you're going to have to wait 2 months for it to season, right? It's called seasoning. And the reason for that is because we want to see the beginning balance with no large deposits. So if you deposit a large amount in the month of May, when the next bank statement posts, it's going to show that large deposit. which means at a minimum, we have to wait for the next bank statement so that the beginning balance has that amount in it and it doesn't show that large deposit in it. That's called seasoned money. All right. So it is very tricky. The thing that you need to understand is that you need to walk into your pre-approval with the understanding that you have to give your loan officer full disclosure of your assets, everything. Okay, because if you do, it's going to allow your loan officer to navigate the lending guidelines. And that's really what it's all about. How do we get you to the closing table without running into problems? And this is why you have a pre-qualification where people tell you how much money they have, but the pre-approval is when we put our eyes on those bank statements. And while we're on bank statements, you have to send all pages, even if it says this page intentionally left blank, right? Yes, all pages. And you can't blacken out anything, or you can't leave stuff out. We have to see every single page because a bank statement is going to say page 1 of 8. So we need page 1, 2, page 8 of 8. We need all of it, even if it says this page intentionally left blank. So if you understand that, then you also can understand how if you move money from one account to another account, we'll see a large deposit going into the other account. If that's the case, we have to source it from the other account. So now we need 2 bank statements. And that's okay. This is just a paper drill. But every single bank is different. It depends on their software. It depends on the functionality of their website. And sometimes you can go into the bank itself and they can print things out and stamp it and initial it. And sometimes that's even harder. Every single bank is different. So it's very difficult to give you a one-size-fits-all type of answer on that. But what I will tell you is that you need to talk to your loan officer so that they can help you navigate your assets. This is a critical piece of your loan. You can't get around it. You got to be able to show it, and you have to be able to show it in a manner that meets regulations and federal guidelines. I hope this helps you understand what we're doing and why we're trying to get there. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. But please understand that when you go into this, full disclosure of your assets will make the process smoother. Until next time, it's all for one and one for all.